When you were playing that record, what were you thinking?
Hello, Internet. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Take 25. My name is Luke Irvin, and I am the host of Take 25. If you are new here, this show is a conversation with myself and other creatives. These creatives can be musicians, filmmakers, artists, entrepreneurs. It doesn't matter. The one thing that matters is that everyone I sit down with has some kind of connection to Arkansas. That means they could be born here, grew up here, or they've relocated here for the creative project they're working on. Now, in this episode, I'm joined with a filmmaker, and this is a really, really fun episode. I'm joined with Jason Pitts, and we'll be talking about his film. I'll share that in just a second. But before we get to that, just a quick house cleaning item. I would love to have more guests on this show, so if you're interested, please reach out. Would love to be able to share your story and have a conversation with you. Right now, I'd say the best way to reach out is probably Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at the Luke Irvin. But I'm gonna plan to get maybe some sort of website or some kind of contact form to make that process a bit easier. So right now I'm actively trying to find guests for the show. I would love to be able to get this out every Tuesday, but if that doesn't work out, that's okay. As long as I can consistently get at least one episode out per month, I'll be very happy. So let's get into this episode. I'm joined with Jason Pitts once again, and we are talking about his upcoming film, Voorhees, Night of the Beast. Now, I say upcoming, but this is a big film and a big project, so we're going to talk a lot about his story, the campaign that he's working on right now. He's already got a great actor lined up to play Jason. He's already teased the look of Jason, and it's really, really, really awesome. It's a really fun episode. If you're looking into getting into filmmaking, a lot of good nuggets are dropped here. So be sure to listen to this episode, look at the show notes. I'll drop down some links below that we talk about. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this conversation with myself and Jason. All right. Well, Jason, thank you so much again for taking the time. We've been trying to connect for a little while now. So you got a lot of projects, and one in particular we're going to talk about, and I want to dive into that. But where I like to start is kind of setting up the story to really get some context. So I'm really curious, when you were growing up, has film always been at the forefront, or did you have any other like creative endeavors before getting into film when you were a kid?
Yeah, it's always been film, with writing as a part of that. Once I decided that I wanted to do film, I focused on the writing side for a long time. I got a ton of screenwriting books, taught myself how to do that. Reached out to as many screenwriters as I could that I knew of, and teachers, and just picked their brains as much as I could. And yeah, it's always been film.
Curious, like, well, so what was there any, what age did that really start? When did you start writing? Were you writing like in high school?
No, it was before that. I started writing around 7. I've got 2 full novels that I wrote when I was like 7 or 8. They're terrible, but I still have them, and they're horror as well. The first one is kind of based on Jason. I created my own character with an axe is one hand and a chainsaw is the other hand, and I just went from there. The second one is kind of based on Freddy. He's like this warlock that could get in your brain and make you see things.
Wow. So horror has always had an impact. So you just kind of grew up with horror films?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we went to drive-in theaters all the time. Watched double features. I was like 7 watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 on the big screen, and Nightmare on Elm Street. And I had this friend who wasn't able to watch horror films, and one time I remember we were at some kind of Boy Scout event or whatever, and his mom was there. She was like a den mother, and he was really curious about Nightmare on Elm Street 4, and so I like told him like word for word like what happened, and she overheard us and got really mad at me.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning trying to think back on what were some of my first like theater experiences. So I grew up in Hope, Arkansas, and when I was young, we had a theater. It didn't last too long after I know after my first theater experience, it didn't last too much longer because I think that's when like Texarkana got there. So, they just had more than Hope did. But I'm pretty sure it was like Jurassic Park. And I had to be like in kindergarten or first grade. I was pretty young seeing Jurassic Park, and that's pretty classic movie. And that's even on its own is kind of scary.
Yeah.
And my kids are really in dinosaurs right now. But horror was always something that interested me because my dad would watch a lot of these films, and some of them I don't know if you necessarily classify as horror. They could be long thriller, but I just remember moments where I finally got to like watch Silence of the Lambs, and my dad was really into Aliens and Predator and getting into those franchises. So those are ones I always grew up just really enjoying and still enjoy to this day. Did you make any films in school? Whether in high school or into college?
I did like little short things in high school. Nothing that you could really call like a film. Like they were like just like tests, basically, like trying to make a chair rock by itself and trying to make my friend walk through. It looked like he walked through a window and just stuff like that with but never a narrative or anything like that in high school. It wasn't until I got into college that I decided that I wanted that to be my degree. I went to the University of North Texas, and I got my film degree there. And while in college there, I made several shorts, a feature, and that's when I started filmmaking.
Gotcha. Did you go to school in Arkansas or college in Arkansas?
I went to UCA for a semester. I had a full scholarship there, but I got too social and I lost my scholarship my first semester. So,
but did you stay or just kind of
no? After that,
college dropout story, or
while I was there in that first semester, I met my wife, and she was graduating that year, and we got married, and she wanted to move to Texas to pursue her master's degree. Well, so we moved to Texas, and we had to get jobs to support ourselves. She has still never gotten her master's like she wanted to. I went back to school and got my film degree in Texas, but she's planning on going back pretty soon and doing it online to finally get her master's degree. But yeah,
nice. Yeah, so I want to talk about college just a little bit more before we start getting more into the upcoming film. I was torn because I did film in high school for a little bit. I do wish going back I could have pushed myself a little bit more, because a lot of the films we focused on were more kind of commercial advertisement type films. Never sat down and tried to like write out a story and kind of build on that. So I really wish I did that. Going into college, all my friends went film. I went computer science, but I would still basically be the go-to actor in a sense, where I would just have time and just let them direct me and throw in what they did. But what was call it like right now with the state of film, what's the emphasis you would put on education? Because I'm always kind of torn with the idea of like, do I ever want to try to find time to shave off and go back to school and focus a little bit more on film so I can do more? Or do you think people can kind of just get out there and do it and learn?
What I have learned since then is people can just go out there, do it, and learn.
Yeah.
Everything's on YouTube. You learn by doing it, making mistakes, learning from your mistakes, learning from other people's mistakes, watching other people. The degree, I haven't done anything with that needed a degree yet. And I've had it since 2006, so I think the degree is pretty much useless, so I wouldn't mess with it if I could go back. I would just start doing it. The one thing that it did help with is meeting people
Mm-hmm.
who later on became news news directors or
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. People you can still connect with, and a little bit with the professors helping you like get jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, I feel like with computer science, it's kind of the same story because I'm a mobile developer, but I learned everything kind of through internships, so outside of the school environment, and I've kind of stuck with that. So that's curious to hear on film, because there's so much of it I still don't know. Because the one aspect I've kind of been pushing off is the writing, where I think, would you say writing needs to be at the forefront?
Yes, writing definitely needs to be at the forefront. And I had one screenwriting class in college, and it was just like basic, very, very basic, bare bones screenwriting class. And that it may be different now, but back then it was very tough to get into. It was very competitive, and there was only one instructor having two screenwriting classes. One of them was intro, and the other one was advanced. And everybody was trying to get into those, and they were just so competitive to get into, and kind of political as well. And so I would just recommend getting as many screenwriting books as you can. Teach yourself. There's screenwriting. I went to a screenwriting seminar in Los Angeles one year that was incredibly beneficial. And so I would just find workshops and local travel if you can. Hollywood, New York, they both have great workshops usually. And just teach
Nice.
yourself.
Well, later today we can circle back if you have any recommendations, and I can leave links for people below. So let's talk Jason Voorhees.
Yeah,
because it seems like you've worked on some multiple ideas around this, and now you're really diving into one film. So I'm curious, before what you're working on right now, how many other projects have you worked on related to this character? And was there any specific moment that just really kind of drew you to this character, like growing up?
not that I remember. I mean, he's always been a part of my life. The first Friday the 13th came out in 1980, the year I was born,
Mm-hmm.
and my parents named me Jason, so he's always been with me. I have always dabbled with the idea of making a Jason film. It's always been a dream of mine. Ideally, it would have been with the studio that owns it, but so many fan films are being made now that I was like, let's just do it,
Mm-hmm.
And I've written several stories. One of them was called Evil Never Dies, and it wasn't just Jason. I wrote this one in high school. I just brought all of the characters together, Jason and Michael Myers and Freddy Krueger and Leatherface, Pinhead. I brought them all together, and I still have it somewhere. But what I was proud of in that one is I linked them all together in a way that made sense. And when people read it, they were like, "Holy crap!" Like I had Jason and Michael were twins, and Pamela Voorhees had twins, and in the hospital, Amanda Kruger, who's Freddie's mom, who was a nun, was doing volunteer work at the hospital, and felt the evil from them, and was like, "Holy crap, they can't be together." So she takes one and like gives it to the Myers family, and it ends up being Michael, and it just goes from there. And that was the starting point. And anyway, it was a fun little story. But as far as Voorhees, that came about because I was like, man, I just really want to do a Jason movie, and I have another friend, a contact that lives up in the Harrison area. His name's Jason Mansfield, and he was like, man, that'd be cool. So he's like, if you need any help, let me know. And I started digging into his background and seeing what he did, and he is a big like urban legend guy. He does a lot of shows on urban legends. He's done shows on the folk monster down in South Arkansas, and one of the biggest things that he does is Bigfoot stuff. And I was like, dude, what do you think about like Jason versus Bigfoot? And he's all like, it's awesome, brilliant. So one of the things that I was a little bit, I was like, let's all right, let's get together and do it. We can co-direct. I'll take care of the Jason stuff, make sure Jason's handled correctly, and you can take care of mostly the Bigfoot stuff. But the one thing I was a little hesitant about doing is advertising the Bigfoot part, because Bigfoot's kind of been watered down and kind of treated as a joke like the last 20 years, pretty much since Harry and the Hendersons. But we're going to make him big, nasty, and brutal and just mean. So I'm excited about it. When I tell people about, Jason versus Bigfoot, they kind of scoff and they're like, is that a joke? And I'm like, no, we're really going to do it, and it's going to be good. But yeah, so that's how that came about.
That's really cool. Quick side note, I believe there's a new series related to Bigfoot on Hulu. Have you watched that?
Sasquatch?
I think that's
I
what
have
it is.
not watched it yet, but I've heard about it. And I've heard that it's not really about Bigfoot. It's like a murder mystery that they originally think it's Bigfoot, and then it turns out to be something else.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I do plan on watching it.
Yeah,
but I've heard that.
I've seen some ads for it, and I was like, "Ooh, this looks kind of cool. I may want to check this out."
Yeah.
Man, this is awesome. So curious, and this is gonna go, I guess, more to like the film business side of things. When you're working with an iconic character like Jason Voorhees, what are some of the initial things like you had to do? Is there rights you have to go get to be able to use this character for a fan film, or was there any kind of like blockers that you had to get past first?
Right. So when you do a fan film, you have to be very transparent, upfront on all your promotional stuff. Make it clear that you're not doing this to make a profit. And technically, it is against copyright law. But there, especially in the sci-fi and horror genres, the studios and the owners who have the rights have been very lenient, especially over the past like 10 or so years, because they found that it really helps. It helps increase their value of their property. So as long as people don't try to make money off of their property, they allow it. There are so many Star Trek and horror based fan films out there, and they just let them slide. Technically, if they wanted to be a-holes, they could sue everybody, but they just let it go, and people have started to understand and realize that, so they're just having heydays with it.
Gotcha. That's interesting.
So yeah, just make it clear on all of your stuff, and at the beginning of the movie that you're not making a profit, and you should be fine. And that's what we're doing.
Interesting. Wow. So what was the next process after that? Did you focus more on just getting the look for Jason first?
Yeah, that's what we started first. There's a special effects artist in Northwest Arkansas we connected with. Her name is Shayla, and I told her that I wanted it to kind of be Jason after part 7, part 8, around there. And so she did a lot of research, watched the movies, made a mask for us, and it looks pretty incredible. She did the costume, and she's going to do more work on it. And Jason in part 7, you can see his ribs and his spine on his back. We're gonna get all that done. So she's still not done yet, and she's also working on the Bigfoot costumes as well. Jason Mansfield had half of a dozen Bigfoot costumes, and he took all of them up there to her, and she's kind of mix and matching them and making a big awesome one from all of them, sewing them all together. And then I found a guy who made online who made custom hot Jason masks, like the hockey mask part. She did the mask underneath the hockey mask, and so I told him I wanted it to be between Jason Takes Manhattan and Jason Goes to Hell. So he created that for me, and I bought it from him. And if you look at the mask that we have, it's still got like some traces of like green toxic waste on it from the end of Takes Manhattan. So yeah, so we focused on getting him like his look right, and then once we had the bare bones of the costume together, I really wanted to get some kind of footage of our actor in the costume, and his name is James Stokes, and he's fantastic. I met him early last year, and as soon as I saw him, I was like, dude, you look like Kane Hodder. He looks like Hodder, and he's got the build. He's stocky, and I was like, you'd be a fantastic Jason. So he came down he lives in Nashville, and he came down from Nashville. We put him in the costume, and we did a little short video that we're kind of using to show people that we know how to treat Jason. We know how he moves. We know how awesome he is, and trying to use that to raise some funds with it.
Yeah. So right now you've got a campaign going to raise funds. So kind of looking outside of that, if you're working on a horror film, what are some of the other challenges you may come up?
Number one is always fundraising. It's always tough to find money anywhere. Some of the other challenges are the special effects are kind of tough. You got to have a really good practical effects person. Nowadays, you can find somebody who can do some video effects to add on to those. I personally don't like the CGI stuff unless it's like just enhancing what's already there. The practice, like if you do some practical effects and then the visual kind of just enhances that. But if it's all visual, it still doesn't look right to me, and I still don't like them. So I would say that probably, other than fundraising, is probably the other tough thing, is to get that stuff looking right.
Gotcha.
Casting can be difficult too. I'm still writing the script. I wanted to be done casting by now, but my other project before this, Masquerade, it went long, and we had to push shooting back on it, so it's really messed with the timeline that I had planned for Voorhees. But I've adjusted, and we should be fine.
I gotcha. What was your plan for Voorhees? Are you trying to get it out like by Halloween?
Yeah, we were wanting to shoot it in October, and but I wanted to have the script done by the end of April and start casting in May. But it looks like I'm not going to be able to start casting until towards the end of this month, once the script is done. And but that'll still give us three months. We're still on track to shoot in October. It'll still give us 3 months to cast and do all the post-production stuff, get a shot list together, and everything. It'll be tough, but I think we can still do it.
Awesome. Well, after Jason, are you gonna do a Freddy movie?
Oh man, I would love to, but that would be so fantastic. And I think Freddy is a lot more complicated to do than Jason, so I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I think with Freddy, he's got a bit of he's got more personality.
He's got more personality.
More to say too.
You have to find an amazing actor that could pull it off without people trashing on you. And then like the dreamscape, it would for me to do a Freddy movie correctly, the way that I see Freddy after growing up with him and everything. I would do an amazing Freddy movie, let me tell you, but it just would take so much special effects. It would be probably $1 million project.
Wow. Would this be for like a short or a feature?
Oh, I would make a feature if I could.
Yeah,
but
of course. So going
Voorhees,
into sorry,
Voorhees is going to be somewhere in the middle, kind of like a long, like I would say about 50 to 60 minutes.
Okay. Was that still considered a short? Because feature has to be 120, right?
Yeah, once you get over like 40 minutes, it starts being called a feature.
Okay. Wow, that's really cool. Well, couple questions we can wrap up because I'm just really curious. This is fascinating. Do you have any film projects that are outside of the horror genre?
Not produced. I have 2 faith-based ideas that I really like that I want to make someday. One of them is called Mysterious Ways, and the other one is called Every Answer. Every Answer is more of a like a TV show where every episode is a different main character. They're dealing with a different problem, and then at the end they find their faith. And so the idea is like every answer is Jesus, they answered every problem. And then Mysterious Ways, it's kind of like Pay It Forward. We just follow this path of human influence going from one character to another, in very subtle ways, just showing how everything is connected, and one thing can affect another thing, 7 links away. And a small thing that happened here, like a character dropping a penny, could mean life or death for somebody, and just how like the idea there is like God works in mysterious ways. So anyway, that's my 2 faith-based ideas. And then I have this other idea that I've been developing called Ghost Town. And it started off being a film, but I think it would work better as a series. And it's about a town that just like mysteriously appears just out of thin air, and all the people in it. And I get into how it happened, and I don't want to give away too much because it's a really good idea, and I don't want somebody to jack it, But I call it my Oscar winner because it's so freaking good, and I think the end could be really emotional. But anyway.
Oh, that's kind of stuff I love.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So kind of to that note you made is something else I'm curious about is if you looked at like kind of like the ultimate bucket list film, and this could be a single film, this could be a trilogy, whatever you want to make it, like what would that be for you? So to create.
I have a slasher movie called Murder You, where the killer kills people based on whatever their college major is that they're doing, and I would love to make that. And if I can find the right investor, I in the next like my plan in the next like 5 years is to try to get that made, and I really like it a lot. It's probably one of my favorite things I've written. I do have another film that I wrote called Man in the Mirror that I wrote back in college, and it's I would love to make that too. I think that would cost like $2 million though, at least. But it's kind of modeled after Freddy. It's about a serial killer who was killed in this museum. Like the cop hunted him down and trapped him in this museum, and the floor of this museum is like this polished, is very, very polished, so it gives off like a lot of reflection. And the way the guy killed him is he electrocuted him while he was standing, like, and his soul kind of passed through the the mirror. It's basically a mirror on the ground. So his soul passed into like the mirror world, and from that point, he's able to manipulate reflections and make you see whatever he wants you to see in the reflections of stuff. Like the opening scene is this lady. She's walking home from a party, and it had just finished raining, and it's night, and the street lights are on, and she's walking over puddles, and puddle after puddle, these puddles are giving off reflections, and she starts hearing somebody call her name, and she gets freaked out, and she's like looking around, and then she starts running, and then all of a sudden this hand just comes out of this puddle, grabs her ankle, and she falls into a bigger puddle, and then these two arms reach up and grab her and pull her in. And once he gets you in his world, this mirror universe is you can manipulate it with your mind. So anything you can imagine, you can make people deal with and see. So it's very similar to Freddy in the Dream World, but it was inspired by that. But I like it, and everyone who's read it says it's really fun and it's really good. But yeah, so there's Murder You and Man in the Mirror are the two that I would make.
Nice. That second one, I started thinking of Little Monsters. It almost like had kind of a vibe like that, of like you have this underworld. And
and what's funny is, man, Hollywood got really close with it, because about 5 years after I wrote it, the movie Mirrors came out with Kiefer Sutherland, and it's not exactly like it, but it's pretty darn close. I went to the theaters while I was like, oh no, and I watched it, and I was like, oh, thank goodness they didn't. It's not my script, but because I was scared too, because I went and I told you that I did the screenwriting seminar in LA. Part of that was pitching your stuff to a lot of executives like Lionsgate and New Line Cinema and a lot of different film production companies. And I took Man in the Mirror with me, and I had several people interested. And I was young and very shy and scared back then. I had Lionsgate want me to come back the next day, because all I had was the script, and they wanted me to make because I didn't know what I was doing back then, but you should have like a synopsis, a tagline, and just a package, and I didn't have that. I had the script. Well, they wanted me to come back the next day. They wanted me to go home, create this package and come back the next day, and I never went. But they did hear my pitch, and they did read a little bit of the script. But they had a lot of other people to see. So I was scared, and I never went back, which I regret. But 3 or 4 years later, this movie comes out by the same people I pitched to, called Mirrors, and I was scared that they took my idea, but I went and they didn't take it. I saw the film, and it's different enough that they didn't take it. Thank goodness.
I feel like I get similar things like that, because like I've recently started thinking of a lot of various ideas, and like one in particular that started got a little nervous was a lot of like stuff like I'm into right now is just more nostalgia based. And but I like, could you take something like I grew up with, but continue it? Because we get all these various reboots and trying to retell the story, and most of them just don't work out. But like an example would be like Mighty Ducks. Like I've had like this script idea for like a continuation film, and I was really thinking a lot about that and kind of like outlining it. And that's when like Disney like announced the show, and I was like, oh, like what are they doing here? Like, but it's fascinating because even actors in recent interviews lately, they all say like, I'm so surprised no one's tried to do this movie or that movie to try to do this like continuation. So that kind of stays in the back of my mind. Like one thing I'm really excited about is this kind of reboot series of the Wonder Years, because that's a show I grew up with and had a big impact on me. And like I've got one series I'd love to do. It's based off of like a speech turned into song, but I'd love to do it in kind of like a Wonder Years-esque type way. So that's like a big item for me. And then I'm also huge on Batman. So like my ultimate goal would be like to do like a Batman trilogy.
Yeah, man, Batman is awesome. I love
Yeah,
Batman.
because I think, and so many, if you look at like, the fan base, like they get so irritated because it seems like lately we've gotten like Batman after Batman after Batman. It's like, why can't you just stick with one actor, one storyline, and kind of develop that? But I'm like, I would do this when I'm in my 50s and 60s, because there's so many different stories for Batman that haven't been told. So there's plenty.
Everybody keeps coming back to the Red Hood, man. I've seen so many Red Hood remake or fan films.
Yeah.
But man, everybody really likes that story, which I like it too. But Jason Todd was a very interesting character, and that whole story of like they let people vote, like, does Jason Todd die or not? It was like, yeah, kill that, kill him.
Yeah. Eventually, when I can move and get an office again, I'll reset up my bat cave, because that's what I had previously. So I'm itching to get my bat cave set up again. So, all right, man. Well, this is awesome. So, Jason Voorhees, Night of the Beast is coming up. So where can people find information online for that?
We have a Facebook page called Voorhees Night of the Beast Fans. So you can search that on Facebook and find us there. We have an Instagram account. I believe we even have a TikTok now. We have a Twitter. You can just search but Voorhees Night of the Beast on all of those mediums. We currently have a Kickstarter that is live that we are pushing pretty hard right now. It's doing pretty good, a lot better than our Indiegogo campaign went. But yeah, go to Kickstarter, search Voorhees Night of the Beast, it'll pop up. And any support we would very appreciate. Share the Kickstarter page, share the Facebook page, and any monetary backings you can give us, we'd love and appreciate. So
definitely.
And we're an awesome movie that treats Jason correctly and Bigfoot correctly. So
I think, right now I'm a little bit more excited on the Bigfoot aspect of it. Because I just it cracked me up earlier, because like you mentioned Harry and the Hendersons, and that's something I grew up with, and that's like a film I can't wait to like show my kids when they get a little bit older. I think
it's a fun movie, but it just
I'm ready for a more serious, like, horror focus for one. So I can't wait to see what you do with this. So all of these links I'll drop below for people, and we'll help share as much as I can.
Thank you, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much. All right, thank you so much for watching and or listening to this show. So before we wrap things up, I'd love to know, did you watch this on YouTube? Did you listen to this on a podcast app? Please let me know through social media or within the comments. Really curious to see where my audience is, and please say hello. I'd love to engage with you. So I hope you enjoyed this episode with myself and Jason. Be sure to go check out his campaign for Voorhees Night of the Beast. There you can get updates on the cast, the crew, the mission, the story, all the various perks you can get by contributing to this film. So please go check that out. Last but not least, if you're new here, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button, following. All of that's going to help the various algorithms to help get this show more friendly in the searches. That would really be amazing. I would really appreciate it. So hope everyone has a fantastic day, fantastic week. We'll see you in the next one.
I'm sweating. Yeah. In 2010, thought I was doing something, and now I'm rapping.